This is The Daily Rule. I'm your host, Bryce Prescott, and welcome to your insider access to the mindset, skill sets, and habits of the truly successful. These rules of success are short 10 to 15 minute messages, making it easy to consume and share for maximum impact. Here's today's Daily Rule. Hello. What is going on, my friends? Naturally, this, of course, is your host, Bryce Prescott of The Daily Rule. I'm excited to be back this week in the swing of things with the video episodes of the podcast. Before I get going too far, I just wanted to remind you that this goes out on Facebook Live. If you're watching this on Facebook Live, please react, share, engage with me. Even though I'm in the middle of this, I want to let you know that I will be going back and responding to each one of the comments, each reaction. It's interactive, so please join me there. If you're watching this on the YouTube channel, please subscribe to the channel, like, comment, engage with me there. And of course, if you're listening to this on the audio version of the podcast, I thank you so much for being the OGs of the Daily Rulers, listening from the beginning. Of course, please leave me a 5-star rating and review. I've got a bunch of freebies that I offer as a part of this podcast, namely my Facebook group, the opportunities to coach with me, all that stuff. I'm looking at the video here, and I'm looking all snazzy in my suit, but my microphone is covering it up, so I got to change it so you guys can see what's going on with this, because I'm vain like that. Anyway, guys, so here's what I wanted to talk about today. I wanted to talk about, I've recognized that in my messaging so far, when I talk about the daily rule, I've leaned heavy on the rules that actually get you to the point to where you're succeeding. And I recognize that there's some of you that listen to this podcast that are already doing really well and that actually don't need the let's get over the hump type of rules to be a part of this, that you actually want to hear some of the more surgical sort of things on how to handle aspects when you're in the thick of getting to your success. You have that clear vision. You've been taking action, and there's been things that have been coming up. And I wanted to talk about that with you today. One of the things that has happened to me in the past year and a half is I started doing stand-up comedy. It's become a very big part of my life. I have some big dreams when it comes to comedy. I want it all. I want to be rich and famous and touring and creating Netflix specials and all that stuff. I love the process of finding little nuggets of funny and crafting stories around them and creating bits and then telling those bits to audiences, making them laugh. If it doesn't work, refining, figuring out how to make the angle correct. There is truly a science of funny, a science of comedy, and as I've dived into this and become a student, it's given me something that really lights me up. Additionally, as a coach and as a podcaster, as a host of this show and an orator, somebody that trains, I also love that process too of teaching and helping people to transform and being in a position to help guide you to a potential new spot in your life where things are going the way that you want them to. Now, this parallel journey of being a coach and being a comedy has provided me some really interesting insight because I'm quite the novice in comedy. Even though I've accomplished some really great things so far, very early on in my comedy career, I also recognize I got a lot to learn. And so I'm able then to drink my own Kool-Aid, so to speak. I sit in the knowledge and the skill set and the mindsets and the habits I've created. I apply them to my comedy and I watch how it works. I've had this interesting thing happen recently, though, and this is where I wanted to talk to you about some tactical information, some tactical tools on how to handle things. Now, I started comedy in April of 2018, and in that time, I've opened for some of the biggest comedians on the planet, Russell Peters, Brian Callen, Jeff Dye, Adam Ray, Miss Pat, Joe Zimmerman, Reno Collier, Greg Barrett. I'm scheduled to host the shows for Nick Swartzen, one of Adam Sandler's guys. And I've barely been doing this a year and a half. I've headlined my own show, which means I was the attraction. I was the draw. I was the name on the ticket. I did an hour of material. There was a host, there was openers, and it was me that they came to see. I've been able to create an hour of material to perform as a comedian in barely a year. Now, that's a big deal, and it's very, very hard to do that, and it's taken a lot of work. I've also been able to build relationships within the comedy community as far as the brass that own the clubs, and I understand their language. They're business people. Comedy clubs are nothing but a bar with a microphone at the front, and so it's not that being the funniest is what's the most important. There's a greater dynamic, and I have applied my business acumen and skills to understanding that industry, and I've put myself in a position to achieve some things that are pretty great and build some relationships that could make things easier in the future. I've also ruffled a lot of feathers. It's come to my attention that there was just I shared with you, I think I might have shared with you on last week's podcasts, there was a project that I'm involved that could potentially be brought on by the Utah Jazz organization. And that project itself, there was an individual that didn't want to be on that project strictly because I was on it. It stung. And I didn't know why. I've never met this person. I've met this person, but I never had a conversation with this person. Then I found this out last night, there was an article that was written by another local comedian, somebody that I once considered a friend, talking all sorts of trash about me and about what I've been doing in comedy and about how I'm doing it too soon, and just, it was the most horribly written piece of junk you would ever see on a website, and it was basically just a bunch of jealousy. I've achieved things he's wanted to achieve, and he seems to think that his way is the only way, and now I'm an enemy. And this was somebody that I've actually been on the road with. I considered him a good friend at one point. It's been a tough thing to kind of deal with that sort of betrayal. But this is what I've learned, and this is what I want to share with you. I'm not here to pat myself on the back talking about how great I've been at achieving what I've achieved at this short stage in my career. What I am here to say is this. When you go out and you set your sights on something that you want, and then you reverse engineer how to get exactly what you want, and then you put foot in front of foot and do the work to get there, it's going to trigger people that aren't doing the work. We live in a very lazy culture. There's a lot of entitlement that floats around, where people think that just because of who they are, that they should be given something. It's the age of the participation trophy. And we all know that's not real life. That's not how achievement and success works. Sometimes there's bad breaks. Sometimes there's things that force you to course correct that end up being a better deal for you, that don't get you to where you originally thought you wanted to go. But the process of having that direct target of where you want to go and then doing the work to get there, there's so much value in that. And the beautiful irony is that even if you do fail, you're going to get further along than most people could have ever dreamed because of your willingness to do work with a clear directive motive. And I've been finding that out too. It's like, I'm not an abrasive personality. I'm a genuinely good person. I care about people. I engage. I use my influence for good when it comes to opportunities for people that are close to me. And I'm still pissing everybody off because I won't go away. And I use the process as it should be. I don't do as well as I should, or could, I should say, at open mics and other workshops for comedy, because I'm using it to work out new material. And then I take that material and I put it in front of actual paying guests. Well, the people that see me struggling or working through material that isn't new, they judge it that I'm not funny and that all this stuff that I've been able to do is somehow I'm not ready for, or that I haven't earned it, when they don't have the full thing. They're just jealous and being distracted from the work that they should be doing in their own life. Now, I'm not turning this into, oh, the haters. I've loathed those posts. You're not doing it right if you don't have haters. I don't necessarily believe that. But what I do believe is that when you step into a competitive marketplace and you do your best and you make it a point to learn the game, to play the game, and to execute your skill set at a high level, there will be things that happen where people judge you for it. And it doesn't say anything about you, that judgment. It says everything about them. Like I said, we live in a world where there's a lot of entitlement. There's a lot of people that think that just because of who they are, that they're owed something. And on the flip side of that, there's a lot of people that think that because of who they are, they're automatically not going to succeed because the system is stacked against them. That's just as nonsensical as the idea that you're owed something. And in a weird twist of irony, sometimes those two ideas live in the head of the same person. They feel that they're owed something, but they're not going to get it because the system is against them. Doesn't make any sense. So today's rule is this. I had this conversation with a friend of mine after I saw this article that was written about me. And thankfully, it flew off like it just was like water off a duck's back. I was annoyed at first, and then I kind of had a little bit of a tantrum, and then I let it go. And that process took 20 minutes. I was in and out, processed the emotions, went over it, and I was done. And I realized this is what changed for me. And this came to me as I was talking to my friend. I said, if I hadn't learned that new information about this person's judgment or this person's opinion or what's happening over here with this potential issue, if I didn't know that information, would it change anything about what I'm trying to do? And naturally it would. And it wouldn't for you either. If you're listening to this, if you're watching this, there are big things for you to accomplish in this world. And they're hard, but they're rewarding. And it's additional to the challenge of the self, the challenge of believing that you can do it, the challenge of staying motivating and accountable to your own plans, to your own desires, not letting yourself get in the way of your own success. The temptation to be judgmental towards others. All of those things, notwithstanding that, you are going to deal with external influences that try to take you down a peg. And that's okay. Run with it, baby. It's a good sign. Anyway, my friends, I'm going to wrap up today's episode with this. You are able to achieve. You got to have that clear vision. You got to be willing to do the work. It takes mindset, skill sets, and habits to achieve at a high level in anything. If you're missing mindset, skill sets, and habits in anything, reach out to me. This is what I do. This is my career. My job is helping you to overcome yourself so you can finally achieve the level of result that you want. Let's talk about it. My friends, you know the drill. Love your life, live out loud, and like I always say, until next time, take it a day at a time. I'm out. Thank you for joining me for another episode of The Daily Rule. If you'd like assistance applying today's rule to your life, I invite you to click the link in the show notes and download my free assessment tool, The 3 Methods, that helps you to know exactly where you should focus your attention for the quickest transformation. As you're aware, the opportunities to be coached directly by me are limited, but if you'd like to see if you're a fit for us to transform your performance and your mindset together, making your life exactly what you've always hoped it would be, reach out to me at bryce@rulesofsuccess.com. Also, if today's episode resonated with you, I ask that you please head to iTunes and leave me a 5-star rating and review. That link is also in the show notes. Thanks again for joining me for The Daily Rule.